Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Lane Book Club podcast. My name is Melissa.
I'm Ellie.
And we're back this week with Ellie Sing It.
Hot guys with unpopular sauce.
I legitimately think about you, not just like the little jingle that you just did. I think I hear you doing that in my head throughout the week often.
As you should. Yeah,
I hope
everyone does.
It's like,
hot guys.
Okay, well, not that. No, it's like the equivalent of the Bluey theme song. It's just constantly living in my head rent free.
Wow.
So you should take that as a compliment. Bluey theme song, Ellie hot goss jingle. It's pretty cool.
It's so weird to me how much Bluey is absolutely ingrained in all of my friends' lives right now, just interwoven. But it's because they all have kids. And so I'm like, am I missing out? I'm not just going to sit and watch this kids show.
Oh my goodness, Ellie, don't even pretend.
Everyone talks about it so much.
Don't even pretend like you and Grant don't like actively choose to watch Trolls World Tour as your movie night on a given Friday.
It's actually Coraline. We've been big Coraline people.
Well, regardless, you sit down, the two of you choose to watch.
Tour also slaps.
The two of you choose to watch kids' movies together by yourselves anyways.
Are different though because it's got some nostalgia with it. Not necessarily Trolls because that's new, but like Disney is all nostalgic. Sitting down to watch Bluey feels really odd to me. I feel creepy.
You say that until you've watched it. I actually live by the fact that it's more for parents than it is for kids.
I should hope so, because I think that's so smart that
they
really
kind
of like come out with a storyline that parents can be like, oh, I'd sit down and watch this, and your kid's super into it. That's so smart.
You market to the parents because they're the ones who pick the show. And if they like a show, they're going to encourage their kids to watch it, i.e. me. Hence why my kids are going to be Bluey and Bingo for Halloween this year.
That's how my dad was with SpongeBob. He loved SpongeBob, so of course SpongeBob became my life. I almost wanted to get a SpongeBob tattoo. Anyways, guys, welcome. Follow us, leave a comment, subscribe on YouTube. We're super close to 1,000 followers, or
subscribers on YouTube.
Subscribers on YouTube. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah. So be here.
I wasn't expecting that.
I guess be there or be square is the phrase, but be here or isn't it?
Is it?
Be there or be square? Yeah, it's like when you're someone's gonna correct me. I want to say 80s, maybe 90s, but it was like the phrase, like a catchy on the flippity, be there or be square.
They said it in high school, but I felt like it was different than be there. Anyways, and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts if you so wish. I'm gonna read our favorite one from this past week.
Yep.
It is titled "Wednesdays Are Now My Favorite Day," 5 stars. And it says, I started listening to this podcast as I didn't have many people in my life that shared the love of the ACOTAR series with me. Every episode, I learned something different about the book that I blew over or didn't connect. The theories, discussions, and different points of views are everything. Listening to Melissa and Ellie is like sitting and talking to friends, as it should be. I now know that I found a network of book loves to share these podcasts with and talk about our favorite fan theories. Stoked to see where this podcast takes you. XOXO, a shameless fantasy book fanatic. Thank you. This comes from username WowFail.
Thanks, WowFail.
Thanks, WowFail. That's so sweet.
That is like encompasses what we had hoped for. If we had any hopes and dreams for the podcast, it was that.
Yeah.
So I'm glad.
For sure. Guys, join us this Wednesday for our very last Tandem Fandom. We are finishing it up and we're moving right into Kingdom of Ash, and then we will be done with Throne of Glass. And so if you want to find out what happens afterwards, again, this Wednesday, we're talking about our vision with the book club podcast, what we're going to see in the future, what book we might go into. So lots of juicy details this Wednesday. Got anything else?
Yep. Nope. I was just going to say,
nope.
Ditto. I echo that.
Okay. Well, let's get into it then.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yes. Ellie, tell us what we're going to be talking. Oh, wait. Tell us spoilers for this episode.
Yeah. Thank you. So there's spoilers for all of Sarah J. Maas's books in this episode, all 15 of them. If you haven't read them, read them first, then come back to us, please. We welcome you with open arms. But if you don't want to read all of them and you just want things to be spoiled, you're a freak, but that's fine.
Why are you here? Actually, that's the first question you should be asking yourselves.
Yeah. All right. So we named one of our previous episodes SJM's Biggest Plot Holes Revealed. And while we did talk about some plot holes in that episode, I felt like that episode more surrounded a lot more of her like redirections, but ultimately she just kind of smoothed it all out in the end. So today we are talking just straight up plot holes, things that never got resolved. So prepare to be angry. As I was typing this, I was angry.
So prepare to be angry.
I tried not to repeat any that we may have mentioned in that episode, so if you feel like I'm missing major points, it's likely that it's already been previously addressed, or I just missed it. So.
The world may never know. It's like the Tootsie Roll commercial. How many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? The world, a 1, a 2, a 3, and then he eats it.
That's so good. That's so good.
That's also one of those. Have you? Okay,
you're so weird. I like you.
I'm getting so off topic. I promise I'll stop. But have you seen, I think I might have sent one to you. Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. Have you seen those, that reel of this one girl who is just posting all of these like phrases that she just says often?
Yes.
Yeah. And then like the scene, okay. I can't make one of those because I don't have the memory to even remember all of the things I say unless it's like in the moment, and then I maybe write it down, and that's too much work. But this is one of those. The 1, 2, 3, like I think about that often. Like,
okay, so it's so funny you bring that up because I've seen her do that. And in my own world, I mean, you see it on the podcast alone. I quote stuff all the time from everything. And so I thought to myself, I am going to write it down. So I've been making a list of everything I'm saying. And today I was working on the puzzle. There's a puzzle to my left. And I found a piece and I was like, whoa, this is just too dang good. And that is from Syndrome from The Incredibles. And I quote The Incredibles more than anything else. Which is very so weird. I didn't think it was that prominent in my life.
It is.
But it is.
So. I'm not surprised because I don't know if you remember this or not, and we had many sleepovers, would watch The Incredibles every night before falling asleep on my little itty bitty tiny TV in the corner of my room, and it was on DVD, and then we'd wake up at 3 a.m. to the dun-na-na, 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 like title sequence on the home screen. And I turn it off.
Oh, so good. Simpler times. Anyways,
times.
Back to this.
Yes.
So, yes, we're talking plot holes. So, obviously, we're going to end up hitting House of Flame and Shadow the hardest because this book, aggressively and agreeably, was the train wreck of the Massiverse.
Oh, it so was. And if you prove me wrong, if you think differently,
I know.
Cite your sources because I have yet to talk to someone who disagrees with that.
It's truly devastating. Have you ever seen Shallow Hal?
I'm sorry, what?
Shallow Hal with Jack Black and Gwyneth Paltrow.
No. I misheard you when you said Shallow Hal. That's actually the name.
Shallow Hal.
Yeah. I know. I thought you were trying to say like Shallow Hole or something. No, I've never even heard of this until just now.
And it's funny, but there's a scene. So Gwyneth Paltrow plays a very large woman, and at one point she like sits. Yeah, you gotta watch it. She sits in this chair. It's metal, and it just the legs like bend out, and she like hits the ground really hard because the legs like completely give way, and they're metal. And Jack Black's character is like, oh my gosh, what is this chair made of? And the guy was like, metal. He's like, well, weld it better. And that's one of my things that I always say, except for this, I was like, write it better. That's how I feel about House of Flame and Shadow.
Amazing. The context was needed for sure, but I appreciate it.
Yeah. So I also saw someone say that whoever does Sarah's editing is getting an absolutely pretty free ride here, which that made me laugh. Here it is. Here, I'm going to lay it out. I fully understand that the largest argument from SJM fans, myself included, is that the series isn't finished, so it could all just be foreshadowing, Easter eggs, etc. However, we need to look at the patterns. To start, none of her series are finished in her usual writing style. She often builds up a situation to make her readers think it's important, only for it to briefly be mentioned and then kind of ignored. Then add in the fact that she's been writing things that just don't add up. So additionally, for the topic of Crescent City, the Crescent City series alone, the main plot is finished. So we should see a lot of completeness. Oh, I'm sorry. I said sorry to the mic. Completeness with the storyline. And we really haven't. So the Asteri are dead. there were still a lot of holes that weren't filled in.
Mm-hmm.
And so, point 1 of all the plot twists that I have found.
Plot twists or plot holes?
Plot holes.
Okay.
Sorry, thank you. When the Lil gang got together, aka Bryce, Nesta, and Azriel, all of a sudden Azriel forgot he could winnow. Do you remember that?
Didn't we talk about this with Daniel?
Maybe.
Or no?
I think so.
I feel like we've talked about this, but I can't remember if it was on that episode
once
or not.
Or twice,
but yes,
throughout our history. But yeah,
it's funny that you bring that up because truthfully, I didn't even second guess the fact that I think I maybe was remembering like, interesting. I wonder why they're not just like winnowing away from the things that are happening or out of, but I'm like, maybe I missed something. Like maybe it was explained and I missed it. And I just kind of chalked it up to me being just a girl and rolling with it. Like,
truth be told, I probably, like Sarah, forgot he could. So I didn't think twice about it. I was like, oh yeah, of course he can't winnow. Of course, that makes sense.
I want to say, I mean, we'll never really know. Like, we don't truly know why unless she comes out and says it. I just have a really hard time believing that she forgot. It's not like, that's like a pretty big thing to forget about a character that you created.
Do you remember she also wrote in the fact that he couldn't fly because it was like too narrow? So if you could remember, like come up with reasonings of why he can't transport from one spot to another because of his wings, you would think you could remember that he can also transport by other means. But it was gone. It was gone. Next point. Why say that Dragonfire can kill the Asteri and then bring in Ariadne only for her to not be in House of Flame and Shadow?
I know. That
what? And now the Asteri are dead. So what was the point of that? Just take it out of the book.
That absolutely.
Yes.
That made me so mad. I remember being like, okay, because that was introduced, right? That's the only thing that can kill them or whatever. And then we meet Ariadne, and I'm like, yeah, dragons. That's like the only thing that her series have been missing for me. I get it. We get wyverns a little bit in Throne of Glass, but like not the same. I'm like, that this is really the one part of fantasy that I love more than life itself that she doesn't include. And we're getting it. We're here. And then not only is she not really a dragon, she's a person the whole time. Yeah. Then she just leaves. And I'm like, what? Like, I was waiting for her to... I was like, there cannot be only this much book left and she's not here. Like, what is happening?
It was bizarre. Point 3. Why mention that Fury works for the Asteri and then have her do nothing in the story?
Wait, I don't remember it saying that she worked for the Asteri. I thought she was like an independent contractor.
It was revealed. And
when?
Then nothing happened. What? Am I supposed to? I don't have a page number for you.
I'm sorry. You're the one putting this together.
Would you like me to quickly read House of Flame and Shadow?
Yes, please. If you could do a quick review.
If you would just sit in silence for a second, let me get through all 600 pages.
It's way more than that. Oh, wait, no, it's not. Wait, baby.
There's that, though. And if you could trust me, that's crazy that never came back around. It just, the fact that, like, the Asteri were killed so easily, but you had these plot devices to make it so much more difficult, and they would come in and save the day one way or another, and didn't use them? Bizarre. That's going to be the name of the episode for me. Bizarre. How bizarre.
We can't name it How Bizarre, but that can be, like, the theme. How bizarre.
How bizarre. Point 4. This one is personal for me. Do you remember when, I might have even mentioned this in the past, when Bryson Hunt had to jump in the water in the caves of Avalon to make it into that one little dungeony room?
Yes.
Like they could only get there by getting into the river, and she knew that because she did that in Prythian. And then all of a sudden the Autumn King and the Avalon King show up with Declan and Flynn as hostages. They weren't wet. They were just there. What? Why aren't they wet? There was only one way to get there. It was stressed so heavily that there's only one way in. Dry as a bone.
It's so funny to me that this is what's gonna steam your beans out of everything that we've
closed the book, toss it over my shoulder.
Out of everything we've talked about. Why are they dry? Like, this is like not even the biggest. I would say Azriel not winnowing is a way bigger plot hole than them being dry.
There's
So it's just funny to me how angry you were and how much you set up this one.
so personal for me.
It is. I can tell. It's coming through.
Bryce created a black hole to consume another black hole.
Oh
black
my
hole
gosh.
Inception. Are we doing the rule of signs, aka a negative times a negative is a positive?
I guess.
Because I don't think black holes follow the rules of signs, Sarah Janet. What is this?
Sarah Janet. Oh my gosh. I know. It's like, this is our problem. How do we defeat it? Let's create the same thing to get rid of it.
Bigger.
But not gonna, never mind.
Oh, all right. So I don't know what point we're just saying next point now. The travel time to Avalon is inconsistent. Sometimes it takes forever, and other times it's almost immediate. And the same goes for traveling to the Eternal City. They were like, it's 6,000 miles. And then they were there. Explain that one to me.
I don't really remember that being an issue for me, but I trust you. I'm going to take your word for it.
I'll tell you the truth. I deep dove Reddit. And that was a huge problem for quite a few people.
Interesting.
I don't think that I really paid that much attention to the travel time, but a lot of people did, and they were not happy. Let us know if you're one of those people.
Yeah.
Next point. Hunt and the Mask. This one did bother me.
This one bothered me
so
much too.
So
oh my
much.
Word. But
the Mask is known. I sure will. The Mask is known to take over the minds of the individual wielding it. Okay, let me start over. The Mask is known to take over the mind of the individual wielding it. I wrote it wrong. It doesn't have enough power. What am I saying?
You caught my disease.
I know.
If you guys listen to our book club episodes, you know I can't read for anything, and Ellie's got it. She's been infected.
Ultimately, the math. Oh, I get it. Here we go.
Now she can read her own words.
The Mask, when worn, will take over the mind of the individual if they don't have enough power to wield it.
Yeah.
Done. Next sentence. Nesta can wield it because she is crazy powerful, as we know, due to being made and stealing the power from the cauldron. Next sentence. I've seen the argument, though, that Hunt was also made, quote unquote, in a way.
No,
because
not the same.
He was. I agree, but you can make the argument from Apollyon and Thanatos.
You cannot make the argument.
Made him their son, basically.
But this is different.
This is different because the book alluded to the fact that Hunt was only able to wield the mask because he had a bit of Bryce's starborn power. Parentheses, because they just had sex. Did not like that.
No.
Did not like that storyline. But
can I, on this note,
yeah,
I am going to say what I feel like might be a what is it? Unpopular sauce? I don't know.
Yeah.
I hated how their answer to everything was just to do it. Like that's truthfully, by the end of the series, that's all their characters became to me. And it ruined. Bryce and Hunt immediately became my least favorite couple in the Massiverse. Individually also became like some of my least favorite characters that she's written. And it's because they never resolved anything. They just had sex with each other. And now at this point, like so much so to the fact that is how she explained how he's able to wield one of the trove items.
Yes, say it louder.
BS. Like if that is really the answer for everything, doubtful. I wonder what she was going through in her personal life when this was written. And that's all I'm going to say on that.
Well, so again, the book alludes to the fact that Hunt was only able to wield that mask because he and Bryce had sex. So he had a little leftover starborn power in him, which is so kind of
also, if we're going to be like technical, how does he have her power in her? It'd be the other way around. Good Lord.
That's too technical for this. That's too smutty, please. So then, when the power dries up, for lack of better words, the mask just falls off. Sarah, that is not what you said. That's not what you said.
Naughty. That's another thing that I think of all the time. And that's just like a soundbite. Naughty, naughty.
Oh my gosh.
No, but doesn't it, like, Nesta, who we've already at this point have established, is more powerful than Hunt and Bryce.
I think she had a hard time. She's almost more powerful than Reese when she had the cauldron power. Yeah.
Well, yeah. But she had a hard time taking off the mask. And you're telling me the bit of sex power that Hunt got from Bryce when it faded away miraculously at the perfect time was enough to just pop that sucker off? No one is that good.
No way. No.
Fantasy is fun to realize, like, okay, yeah, this isn't realistic. That is so unrealistic that it's hard to read.
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, like, obviously you give leeway to fantasy because it's not going to be real. But a story still has to be believable. Even if it's not real, the elements still need to, there needs to be rules. And Sarah is known for breaking the rules. And it's not necessarily in a great way. She establishes her own rules and then she breaks all of them. And the editor is like, good to go. Send that puppy out. And I think
whatever you say,
in
Sarah.
all of her other books. It does show in her other books, and I'll get into those plot holes as well. But because House of Flame and Shadow was the most notorious for being full of plot holes, full of empty storylines, full of mistakes, it's just being ripped apart, and all of these are being pointed out. So
yeah.
That's that. Next, this is my last point on House of Flame and Shadow, and it's a little bit more deep cut, but Hunt described the halo that Rigolas gave him as sentient. Do you remember that? I remember that.
Kind of. I just remember thinking of him as like having like a barbed wire crown tattoo across his forehead.
Yeah, it's because it was the cover of the book.
No, I read it on my Kindle. Didn't look at the cover.
You've never seen the cover?
I'm not saying I haven't seen it, but that's not what I was picturing. I was picturing all the fan art.
Yeah. Also, so anyways, the first one he had, obviously Hypaxia broke it.
Yeah.
The second one, Rigolas gave to him. And so there's a thought that there's a plot twist or a plot hole that Hypaxia should have broken that one too. But then we find out later, he has the power to break it himself. He is a son of hell, so there should be nothing binding him. But the way he describes the crown is as sentient, which kind of alludes to it might have been able to control him. It might have been able to like whisper things like Chester in Fairly Odd Parents, the little boil on his head. But nothing ever happened with that. And so plot hole.
Also,
yes.
Coincidence? I think not. Incredibles again. No, I also prove me wrong because I haven't fully thought this through, but it's now that we're talking about this, if he is a son of hell, supposedly the leaders of hell or whatever, you can't bind them. How in the actual flibberflam was he able to have it on him in the first place? Shouldn't he have been able to break it off to begin with? Why did he need Hypaxia the first time?
Technically, yes, because he probably wasn't originally supposed to be a son of hell. I'm thinking, and I mark my words, I'm not obviously Sarah, and I don't know her mindset, but I am truly thinking that theory about Bryce and Azriel being mates actually was supposed to be the situation, which means Azriel would have been a son of hell rather than Hunt, and basically Hunt's backstory would have been Azriel's. Peep one of our older episodes, I can't tell you which one, but we go into it a little bit. But I think that was, it's the one with Daniel.
Good luck, go find it. Yeah, no, it's
the one with
Mass
Daniel.
Island. Mass Island,
yes, thank you. But I think that she completely switched things up when she wanted Bryce and Hunt to be mates instead, that she gave Hunt that backstory. So now you have to write this in, which does lead to a plot hole. He should have been able to break the last one, especially since it was a lesser type of control.
Yeah.
But I didn't know he could.
But she's already, I mean, I guess we don't know like tons and tons about Azriel's backstory, but we know enough to where he couldn't have been a son of hell, like with how he grew up though.
He could have if they basically like faked his backstory. Like, yeah, he had a mother, but maybe the mother, because this book is the one that described Apollyon's relationship with, I think it was Thea.
Oh yeah.
Maybe if that wasn't written in, his mother was the one who had the relationship with Apollyon. And then Azriel.
I don't know. I will say though, I heard, and I put, for everyone listening, put so much emphasis on the fact that take this with a pile of salt. Like, it is, I don't remember where I heard this. I couldn't even recall, and it's me and it's the internet. So I'm sure wires have gotten crossed in some capacity, but I heard that she had to rewrite House of Flame and Shadow. Not necessarily the first two, but just the third book. And I can't remember if what I read said why she had to, or if it didn't say why. But all I know is that I read somewhere that she had to rewrite it in like a week and a half or something. And so certainly I don't want to excuse any plot holes with that, because that's a little bit out of her control. I would want to know more why. Like, why couldn't she have just been like, that's not possible? Like, no. Yeah. You know, I need more to know why. And that might not even be true. But if it is true, I need more details to excuse it. But at the same time, you'd think that you would remember your own story enough to not have this many issues with it. Like,
well, truthfully, you've heard it herself, she doesn't keep notes. She just she said, I have like a catalog in the back of my head where I remember the plots. Well, do you remember?
Do you though? Because here's my thing. This book is significantly less complicated and shorter than the ACOTAR series or Throne of Glass, and there weren't nearly this many issues with either of those. Yeah. So I believe her when, she's made all of this stuff up. She should know better than anyone else, like what they can and can't do and stuff. And I believe that she has like a catalog in the back of her head to some extent. And I also know we're humans and we make mistakes sometimes, but like, well, one, that's what an editor is for, which is, we're not even gonna go into that. But two, like, I just don't.
You want to hear something that I read that I didn't put it in the outline, but it is something to think about, because she combined worlds, and it seems like moving forward, at least in her Crescent City, I think there's going to be only one more book as far as that goes, but there is going to be more ACOTAR books, and now she's crossed paths. So it opens up the possibility of other characters intermingling. It seems like that is going to be insanely problematic, because one, if you're adding characters from Crescent City or even Throne of Glass into the new ACOTAR books, you can't read ACOTAR straight through unless she doesn't include any spoilers as to what Aelin is or what Bryce is, like any of that. You have to read every single book in the Massiverse and then go to you have to, one, know the order that you need to read them in, but two, read all 15 before you can continue with just the ACOTAR series. I feel like that's going to be really problematic.
I heard her one time, she said in an interview that she wants all of her series, like all of this was pre-crossover, but I think she was talking about the crossover, because I think Crescent, I don't know. I want to say that at least Crescent City 2 had come out at this point, so we knew that it was coming, but we didn't have Flame and Shadow yet. Anyways, she said that she wants all of her series, even though there might be crossover, to still be able to be standalone series. So if there is any crossover, she's only going to include relevant information about the characters that they would need to know for that story. So while it might be more impactful on the reader if they had read all the other books first, it's not necessarily going to spoil anything knowing who that character is for the series that they're supposed to be in.
I almost hate that more though, because even though, here I am contradicting myself, but even though it would be problematic, you don't get any character development if you don't really get to divulge into who the character is, what they hold, like their backstory. Like it would be like putting Feyre in Crescent City and just pretending she's just this new character, like kind of how Nesta and Asriel were. People were pretty upset that there was nothing to them other than just the storyline.
This isn't their books though. We don't need character development from them in their books.
But I hate it because if you're going to write about them at all, write about them, in my opinion.
I get that. I'm not saying I wouldn't have loved more development from them, but I see both sides. Like, it didn't bother me that I didn't get it, because I'm like, this isn't their story. They're just added into it. Just like how, like, we don't expect, if we get it, great, but we don't expect a ton from like the supporting characters in a story. But Sarah's really good at giving us a lot of awesome side characters and supporting characters that we can connect with, but we don't expect much from them. If they happen to come back later, or if we get more, it's like a cherry on top, but we take it for face value. That's how we have to view these other characters. Even though they're main characters in their own series, they're not the main character in whatever one they're being introduced in. And so we can't expect the same from them as we would in this I don't know. I think we just also, as the reader, have to take that into account, like when reading it. But
so, that being said, what do you guys think? Would you rather have more character development even if they're crisscrossing books, or do you think that'd be too confusing and just keep them into their own series? Next, plot holes. Let's bring up A Court of Wings and Ruin. These acronyms really, they become the names in my mind. Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. ACOWAR is, I like the book, but I will accept no criticism for ACOMAF.
Good thing you said that, because I also won't, so I didn't include it.
Incredible.
Didn't even want to look it up because I love that book. It's my favorite of all time.
Yep.
Not gonna rip it.
Yep.
So
I agree.
A Court of Wings and Ruin. Why didn't Rhys get the gifts of the other High Lords when he was resurrected by all the High Lords?
Oh my gosh, I know.
I don't. And so I saw the argument that, well, Feyre was just made into a Fae. She's a blank slate. So that's why all the power changed her. Does it really work like that? I mean, anything you can chalk up to just it's magic.
Well, here's the thing. Okay.
There's rules.
No, but not even the rules. Let's talk about that. Okay, Feyre was a blank slate, so she absorbed everything she didn't have. Rhys isn't a blank slate, but he doesn't have all of those, so he should still absorb what he didn't have.
Yes,
that's
are you
the
listening?
Same.
Yes.
Like, that's the same thing. Like, he absolutely should have not if he had like elements of it, but okay, cool. Like, he doesn't, like, he already could winnow. He doesn't need to take the winnowing from someone, but like, I don't know, like he had
water
zero
bending.
Exactly, like
ice.
He had none of that, so he should have been able to absorb those then.
Yes. Okay. Next, I'm so angry. We have to move on. The books mention that winnowing a bunch of people at once is really tough. We know that because when Feyre said, "Oh, I can winnow," like when they were going to the wall with Tamlin and Dagden, and
she's like, "I can only take one."
Yeah, and she's stronger. And even Tamlin was like, "I can't winnow all 11 people." They make this really clear that even the strong ones, you can't winnow a bunch of people. In A Court of Thorns and I'm so sorry. In A Court of War and Ruins, Wings and Ruin. My gosh,
ACOWAR. Just say the acronym. It's okay.
It's just kind of like I don't like how
or the number.
ACOWAR.
Just say number 3 in book 3.
In book 3, Tarquin manages to winnow his entire army and a part of Rhysand's group.
Dude, I can't.
Did you catch that? I didn't catch it.
No, and here's okay. I am getting so irritated right now, but I am out of 100, I am 20% irritated with Sarah including all of these. I am 80% irritated with myself for not catching them in the first place. It's like information overload. There's so much world building, there's so many plots, there's so much happening. So when a fairly quote unquote minor discrepancy like that takes place, my mind, I'm like, cool, he winnowed everyone. Let's keep reading. Like, it didn't even register that it's like, that should not be allowed. And I'd
argue that, yes, unless you're on your like third or fourth read looking for things like that, it's okay if you miss things like that because you're reading for the story. You know who it's not okay to miss things like that when they're reading for the first time? The editor. What to heck? So those are my two for ACOWAR. I'm sure there's more. If there's more, guys, let me know. I'd love to hear them. Or would I?
Do you have any for Throne of Glass?
Yes. A Court of Silver Flames comes first, though.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant that was you're done for the series. So I was like, that's pretty impressive.
No. We have some to go.
No.
A Court of Silver Flames. 3 girls who have trained all of less than a year get tossed into the blood rite and come out the victors. I know people will say this isn't a plot hole. This is just you don't like the storyline. But isn't it, though?
It's both.
Isn't it a plot hole, though?
It is, because you're telling me Rhysand, the most powerful High Lord ever to exist, didn't actually
made it out.
Yeah. Sorry, you're right. He did. The 3 of them, him, Cassian, and Azriel.
Yeah.
Barely, after training their entire lives up until that point.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, but they were by themselves. Nay. So were the Valkyrie women. Nary were the other women. Nesta, they were in literally the exact same scenario. They split the three of them up, so they were all alone. They had to find each other and then get out. And you're telling me the only reason the other two got out, and being injured, and the only reason Nesta didn't is because she had to fight one of their cousins. And because Cassian shows up, and Brie Allen.
If it was, okay, we're not going to talk too much about this because we are going to do a Shut the Fanfic Up in a couple weeks about A Court of Silver Flames. That's going to be our very first one. But if it were me writing this, I would either really elaborate the mental skills, how they were so far above everyone else because of their minds, but also have written that into the story for maybe A Court of Thorns and Roses moving forward, how smart Nesta was, how smart Gwyn was when she met her, you know, all of that, and really relied on that aspect more than their strength and luck and power of friendship bracelets. I don't know. That's all I'm saying on this. Or maybe even not a plot hole in this sense, but like a scapegoat where power was somehow unleashed, like someone rigged it so that they had power, thinking that Nesta was just a weak girl and they would use their power against her. But no, she's more powerful than all of them combined.
Yeah.
That would have been believable to me. So this was just not great, in my opinion. Next point. Feyre not being able to shapeshift to deliver the baby without dying.
My gosh.
And Prythian not offering C-sections is the most annoying plot hole I've ever read in my life.
I was about to say, beyond her just not being able to shapeshift, the fact that it's like, oh, no, we just can't do C-sections because you're going to bleed out. I'm sorry. In backwater real world, I know it's like odds aren't great, but there's a chance that a successful C-section can be performed, and these people with magic in what is essentially described as heaven can't. Riddle me how that's possible, Sarah Janet.
There it is. You've heard it here. It's not realistic. And I actually have a theory on this. I think that she wrote it this way to where it's like, there's no getting out of it. She either dies giving birth or she dies giving birth. There's no other way. I think she wrote it like that because had she wrote it where Feyre knew that the risk was like high giving birth to this baby, and Rhys was like, hey, I don't want you to be hurt. I don't want you to have this baby. I pick you. It would have been too close to the storyline of Renesmee. And so she was like, can't redo that. Everyone hated that.
But we hated this too.
We hated this. Just pregnancy tropes aren't my favorite.
Oh my gosh. Oh my word. That is hilarious. I was not sure where you were going with that. And
where's the lie?
There isn't one. That's the same picture. It's, I can't stop thinking about that now.
Yeah.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Little Nox Renesmee. Nyx Renesmee, not Nox.
House of Sky and Breath, Hosab. In book 2 of the Crescent City series, Adis doesn't know who Hunt is, but in House of Flame and Shadow, he claims he has been watching over Hunt the whole time. Pardon? Small but powerful.
Interesting. And also, let's just pretend that that's not even the case. Let's pretend he doesn't even mention that he has been watching him the whole time in Flame and Shadow.
Son of Hell, you're not going to know.
You're telling me you don't know the son of 2 of your brothers? Like,
yeah.
What?
Your actual nephew?
Yeah.
It happens, I guess. I don't know. I mean, but not like this, I feel like.
Yeah.
So, okay.
With how much he did know, it would be...
Yeah.
Whatever, keep going.
Because Adis was the one who walked around as a little cat, right? So...
That's what you said.
He should know a lot more than any of his brothers since he's always in the world doing things.
Like, let's use the argument that like, oh, his brothers did this in secret, like they didn't tell anyone else. It was just the 2 of them that knew about this, blah blah blah. Okay, but like he's still a prince of hell. Like he has powers and
smell it. Yeah.
Yeah, like he's a family member. There's no you're telling me that he wouldn't be able to sense it in some way, shape, or form? Like
Yeah.
Bet.
Okay, so this next point comes from AG811987 on Reddit.
My pal.
So I was very confused and kind of annoyed when Bryce and company all went to break into the Eternal City and the Asteri archives. The point that she needed to find out what Sophie knew, which I think was mostly because of her Danica obsession, but I digress. But they had a necromancer. So, like, why wouldn't they ask Hypaxia to summon Sophie to ask her? Instead, they risk all of their lives knowing that they're going to probably end up killing people, which did happen with Therian and Cormac's diversion. And, like, the plan was insanely risky, and there was a clear alternative that was not explored. Very interesting point, AG811987.
You're so right, AG81997.
I'd argue Hypaxia really was not great at her job, nor were so anybody else in that entire book, but
no one was good at their jobs.
I would think you would be like, let's talk about the possibility of you bringing Sophie back for us to ask her a quick question on the actual fate of the world.
Now, I can't remember. I think they did, but I can't remember. Mm-hmm. So if you remember, tell me. And if not, I don't know where we're going to go from here.
Can tell you. Yeah.
Was it confirmed that she was dead already at this point?
Sophie?
Yeah. Because they weren't sure if she was alive or dead for a while until they were on the ship and got the body.
But I think I couldn't tell you for sure. I'm 99% leaning towards yes. However, if they weren't sure if she was alive or not, wouldn't Hypaxia also be able to tell them if she couldn't find her in the afterlife?
I don't really. I mean, I guess if we're just making up rules, that seems like it would make sense. I don't really know how necromancy works in this context.
If Sarah's going to blatantly ignore the rules she made, then I'm allowed to make up my own rules.
Exactly.
So are you.
Exactly.
All right. You ready to break all of our hearts with Throne of Glass? Well,
no.
You get to. Throne of Glass, number 1. And this cracked me up when I thought about this. The title. I never thought about this, but it has almost nothing to do with the storyline, especially considering the glass castle is shattered mid-series. And I know people are like, well, Throne of Glass. Yeah, exactly. They're like, the glass was just the outside.
Yeah.
So, you could chalk it up to Aelin being told that her chance of becoming Queen of Terrasen wasn't certain. And so that made her, like, rise to the throne fragile, in a sense.
I get that.
So it's like a throne of glass. But
or, like, it could be taken at any point. Like, it's technically hers, but it could be broken.
I just don't know. I just, like, why didn't I ever think of this? And I know people are going to say, well, that was the first book. But number 1, I ask you then, what does that have to do with the first book? And number 2... it's like she knew going into this. We call it Court of Thorns and Roses, like that's the whole series. That's what we're calling it. So she knew if you're going to title the first book Throne of Glass, the whole series is going to be called Throne of Glass. But it just didn't have anything to do with it.
I think we've talked about this before. And if you didn't know, you're going to learn today. Kevin Hart, anyone else? No, but this story was originally written when she was super young, and she had just posted it online on like Wattpad or something. I don't remember the exact platform, if it was something else, but it became so popular. But the original story was slightly different than what we have published today, and it was also called Queen of Glass. Mm-hmm. And so truthfully, my guess is that she just wanted to keep the name similar, but needed to change it, one, for copyright purposes, and then also, even though it's her story, it's like it's separate, but then also because it's gonna be bigger now. Like, I don't know, but she's trying to keep it close to the original.
So much of me wonders, because when Twilight came out, a bunch of other artists and authors started making their cover art look like Twilight. Their storylines were about vampires. Like, that was a movement. So much of me wonders if she renamed it to Throne of Glass because Game of Thrones came out. And obviously everyone knows if you don't know, go listen to our possible plagiarism episode. But this really like kind of rode the coattails of Throne of Glass or Game of Thrones and made like a movement towards.
Sorry, I was just looking it up. It's possible. The first episode aired in April of 2011, and the first and Throne of Glass was published in 2012. So,
well,
it's possible.
Regardless, excellent story. Can't complain too much because I loved reading it and I loved watching Game of Thrones. So,
Yeah, I wish that at least maybe just make the throne. The castle's already glass. It wouldn't have been weird to just be like, and the throne was glass too. Like, yeah. I think if she had literally just even added that in, no one would care.
Petition to rename the whole series Heir of Fire.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Petition granted.
Thank you. All right.
Here's my next point. Motion approved.
We need your little gavel.
Oh, I have it.
So.
No, I don't.
It's okay. This one cracked me up too. This one was so funny to me. What was the purpose of the competition to become the king's champion? Why would Parrington and Erewhon and the king be interested in having a champion when they're literally focused on building an entire army of demons? Who cares?
What is that? Wait, give me a second.
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't matter. I'm trying to think of it's like, well, other than like for sport, like the Hunger Games, like to teach someone a lesson. I guess they did pick criminals, and there was a good chance a lot of them were gonna die. So like,
but like Erewhon had so many more things on his to-do list. Why